Hello everybody and welcome to my tutorial for the Razbam 2000C. We'll start off in the cockpit, and the very first thing I like to do is basically just set up my audio settings. So we'll move over to the audio control panel, which is down here on the left, and I'll just set the various volumes for TACAN, radio, ILS and all the rest. It just saves having to do them during the flight and saves one from becoming part of the scenery. When those are done, the next step is to tune into the tower frequencies. Again, I like to use ATC. It's not particularly great in DCS, but it's still a good habit to get into using. So once I've that set, I move over here to the right, and this is the obviously the power switch panel. First switch I enable is the battery switch, and you get a little alarm once you do that. And the next thing I do is enable the TRN, the power transfer switch. Now you can hear the alarm. I just simply press the button and the alarm goes off again. Once I've that done, generally I like to move down, because we're doing an ILS tutorial here, you need to be able to see all the instruments. So the next thing I usually do is turn on all the instrument lights. So down to the lighting panel and turn them up so I can see at a glance where I'm going and what's happening. I don't have to stare into the instruments or lean forward. I can just look down, see what's happening. And then of course ask for permission for startup from the tower. Next place we go is the engine start panel. Obviously apply the brake. Now there's something really neat here. When you flip back the cover on the engine starter, it actually engages the first set of starter boost pumps. The next step is to turn on the boost fuel pumps, and from there press the engine starter. Then just simply wait for this gauge to reach about 10, push the throttle forward a little bit and return it back to the idle position, and you can hear the engine beginning to rev up. You'll also get a warning there, so you need to turn on both your alternators and obviously the hydraulic switch over here on the right. At this point you should notice you only have two lights lit on the warning panel. One being your parking brake and the other being your canopy. So at this point it's a good time to test the lights, and they all seem to be working. Once the engine has fully started, then you can return to the engine starter panel and obviously close the cover, the starter switch, and turn off the starter pumps. This is where you would generally set up the inertial navigation system. Now, at the moment it's in beta. It should take, I'm told, about 8 minutes to start up, but at the moment you can just flick it straight on. It doesn't really work the way it should. So basically what you would do generally here is turn it to a line and wait. However, as it doesn't work the way it's meant to, I've preset some waypoints into this mission. So what I'm going to do, now I'm just setting up the RWR, by the way. I'm not sure how these switches are meant to be set, but the lights are coming on, it seems good. So I'll leave that alone for now. This tutorial doesn't really cover that anyway. And my next step is just to set the inertial navigation system and of course the ILS. Now here I have to basically just check and see what frequency the ILS is running at McCarran Airport at. So I check that out, and you can see it there. Go back to my plane, and I'm just setting up the TACAN as well, but we're going to be using ILS in this tutorial. So there you go, you hear the beep, and now we're just setting up the ILS. just to make everything look pretty, I'm going to set up the radar. Again, you would generally go through a warm-up phase, but in this case, you don't have to. It's still in beta. It's not fully functional. But there you go. Switch on the little switch just down to the bottom below the right-hand side of the radar screen, and the radar is on. And now I'll move up and switch on the HUD. You can see the HUD is on, working. Not fully sure what all these settings do, but I've just switched it to manual mode there, and I'm not really too sure what that switch does, but I played with it because that's what I do. And as you can see here, there's a really neat little feature. Instead of a bank of switches controlling your HSI, you basically have one little knob, and you can turn it between the various modes, between ILS or even inertial navigation system, TACAN, and so on and so forth. So that is quite a neat feature in this jet, that it's simple, one little switch, you turn it, you're on basically to the next set of functions. And now we'll just close the canopy, and we'll get permission to taxi.
In field 1-1, request taxi to runway.
And as a last little step, we'll obviously turn on our countermeasures system. Again, not sure what that switch does. Generally, from French, we know arrête means stop, so anything other than arrête should mean that it's functional. Just checking frequency there. Take off the parking brake, which looks kind of like a handbrake in a car. And then we move the throttle forward a little bit. Now again, this was recorded when I was severely hungover, and so you'll have to forgive my inferior flying skills. Now, turn on the nose wheel steering there, and that's just, you can see the little switch activating on the stick. Steering is quite nice. There's nothing really problematic about it, and the aircraft actually feels like you're moving on the runway. The ground handling is particularly good in this. And we'll just line up for takeoff here. Now, one thing I did notice, and I think it's just in 2.0 in the Nevada map, is that you have to be basically sticking out over the runway before you can get permission to take off. I've tried various positions, and really the only position is where you're likely to get your nose taken off by a landing aircraft. Just requesting permission for takeoff. Beautiful sunrise. And there we have permission. So I'll line up. I'll do a standing takeoff. Now this has been listed on the changelog already for the Mirage, which is due any time really now. You will notice that the Mirage kind of pulls a little bit, I find, to the left on the takeoff roll. So generally what I have to do is add just a little bit of right rudder on the pedals to correct that out, but I am told that this is basically just an issue with the flight model at the moment, and it is actually already changed. I'm just waiting for release. But apart from that, the takeoff is quite smooth, and should be airborne. And now we'll raise the gear. Again, as it's a beta, I'm not sure, pretty positive actually that this isn't the finished flight model. But it really does feel good. There is that fly-by-wire feeling that you will get from Falcon BMS, and it feels great actually. I hope they don't change it too much. I hope this is actually how the Mirage feels, but if it's not, you know, it's obviously best to have something that's as close to reality as possible. But I can say it just feels great. You can throw it around the sky. It handles really well. The only real danger is you can knock yourself out quite easily, because this aircraft can pull incredible G-forces. I'm just going to basically faff around it a little bit, give you a couple of external shots, a little bit of low flying, just to really demonstrate the handling of this aircraft. But it handles absolutely magnificently. Just do a little low pass on this village, and then we climb out, try to achieve Mach 1 maybe.
Passing waypoint 9 at 25,000.
And you can see it will literally just turn in the parking space. Now again, just some flying around there. You can see that I'm kind of overloading the G's a little bit. And you can hear the sonic boom. And obviously the alarm sounding in the aircraft. Now unfortunately I've got both TACAN and ILS tuned in, so you've got a little bit of a discordant set of beeps going on at the same time, usually together. Just again going to push it a little bit further, and this time I'm just going to put it into a very shallow dive and take the afterburner off. And whether this is intentional, real, or just an accident of the current flight model, it still holds Mach 1 pretty well at military power. I hope this is really how it seems to work, but we won't really know until we kind of read a little bit more on it. I certainly haven't done too much reading on it anyway. I would also like to say that DCS 2.0 Nevada, the NTTR range, is still an alpha. So I am seeing little things, particularly the water effects do not look amazing, and particularly where the water meets the shore here, you can see it here behind me, it looks just a little bit too cleanly delineated. So I'm hoping obviously that's going to change. Now here I'm setting up for landing. So the first thing I'm going to do is on the weapons control panel, which is just here, I'm going to click on approach. You see it there, the APP. Now this will basically set up my ILS. I've already, by the way, selected the waypoint, so you can see it up there in the hood. You can see basically an indication of where the waypoint should be. Now here I have forgotten completely to reset my radio, so I need to reset it obviously to McCarran Airport. Now one little thing you will notice is there are two sets of frequencies, or sometimes three. Generally, if you're on the ground, you go with the first frequency. If you're in the air, you select the second frequency to get permission to approach, and so on and so forth. This isn't the most fantastically flown approach, but it's really just to demonstrate that the ILS system is working, and just to show you the little virtual runway that appears on the hood, which I think is a really neat feature on the Mirage.
Arco, passing waypoint 5 at 30,000.
I've got myself kind of half lined up, so basically you can see there it's not perfect, but I will line the aircraft up fully.
Texaco,
And
passing waypoint 9 at 25,000.
you will notice that until I think we're 8 or 9 nautical miles from the runway, we won't see that that virtual runway. Now I'm just sighting the runway there just to make sure I am lining up with the correct one, and the lights seem to be working for a change, but I've since tested it and they don't seem to work at night, but they seem to come on about dawn, which is bizarre. Now you should be just getting your first view of the virtual, for want of a better word, virtual runway, and it's appearing there on the hood. As you can see, it's working absolutely perfectly. So I'm just basically coming up on final now. Obviously reducing my throttle. And getting ready to deploy air brakes. Fully lined up, and as you can see, the detail for Las Vegas is just amazing. And as we get closer to the ground, just look out to the right and left and you'll see traffic, and everything looks realistic. You'll see, you know, cars turning, pulling off, going various directions. It's really, really well done when you compare it to the older Crimea Map. Just deploying the landing gear, probably a little bit late. And just flaring a little bit prior to touchdown, because we want to touch down obviously with the rear wheels and then use the air brakes and the actual angle of the plane for air braking to slow the plane right down, and we shouldn't really begin to drop the nose on until we're well below 100 knots anyway, preferably a little bit below that, so maybe 95, 90 knots. And just start to drop the nose down. Not the best landing in the world, pretty smooth though. And then you apply the brakes just in little 1-second bursts. Anything more than that, you can find yourself bursting a tire or just veering off the runway. I am, in its current state, I am with the FM, I am applying a little bit of rudder just to keep it steady. And then I re-engage the nose wheel steering when we drop below 40 knots. And you can hear it there clicking into place. And I steer off the runway. So the main things to remember are, at the moment with the inertial navigation system not working the way it should, you have to set up the waypoints in the mission when you're editing the mission. Make sure then on the inertial navigation system panel that before you come into approach mode, that you select the waypoint of the runway that you're landing on. And then it's just a matter of flying the approach, and your virtual runway, which is really designed for landing in poor conditions, should become visible. With that, I'll just leave you with some views of Las Vegas, the sunset and the traffic. Thank you very, very much for watching. And if you like this video, I will be making more, so please subscribe. And I hope you at least found this somewhat informative. Probably not enjoyable, but at least informative, and maybe for anybody just starting out with this jet, it will be a bit of a help. Again, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.